and welcome back to the Royal Daily Tea. So if you're not aware, I just dropped my latest video where I gave some feedback on the second volume of Harry and Meghan's Netflix docuseries. I should have titled it Much to Do About Nothing because there was really no new information, no real bombs that were dropped besides the same old boo-hoo, poor us crying in our golden teacup. So if you want to have a listen, you can go ahead and take a gander over to my other video. But we have a lot of juicy royalty to get through today. So sit back and relax, grab yourself a beverage, and let's get into the Royal Daily Tea. So last week, Buckingham Palace announced that they had a meeting between Lady Susan Hussey and Ngozi Fulani, aka Marlene Headley, to talk about the incident that happened at a reception last month at Buckingham Palace. Of course, this whole incident, it's up for debate whether you think it was racist or whether you don't think it's racist. Context is everything. In my personal opinion, I do not believe it was a racist comment that Lady Susan Hussey made, although it might have been a little bold. She might have kept going with the questions and perhaps should have stopped after the first or second question. But regardless, we have talked about it before in length in a previous video that Marlene Headley showed up at this charity event dressed head to toe in African attire, had an African name, and had a charity that represented only African and Caribbean women. So it is plausible that anyone would inquire where someone is from, especially if they are decked out head to toe in ethnic attire. Again, if I walked in a room wearing lederhosen, you might ask, oh, are you German? What part of Germany are you from? And if I got offended and said, I'm from Texas, how dare you ask me where I'm from? That's literally ridiculous to be offended for someone asking a very obvious question. Marlene Headley, Ngozi Fulani, went in there full well knowing she's wearing a costume, literally cosplaying an African woman. In my previous video, I showed you a clip of her letting people know in a room that she only dresses that way when she goes to events or appears on TV or appears in court, because she believes that is what people expect her to look like when she represents her African charity. Was Lady Susan Hussey out of line? Was she inappropriate? Was she too forceful interrogating her? Maybe, maybe not. But again, everything is about context. I also believe that Marlene Headley was defensive on purpose, trying to drag it out, was playing a game. And we all know her backstory, her history, and her hatred of the royal family. She has accused the royal family of committing domestic violence against Meghan. On a tweet, she has tweeted other things about, supposed racist royal family, but yet puts on African garb and attends an event at Buckingham Palace and smoozes on up to Camilla. There's pictures of her engaging with Camilla, laughing with Camilla, talking with Camilla. Again, this woman was not even invited through her charity, but through another charity. So now Buckingham Palace has decided that Lady Susan Hussey is going to sit down and give a formal apology to this woman. And I do feel bad for Lady Susan Hussey. I don't believe she deserved the harsh treatment. But again, in my opinion, she fell on the sword. She took it for the team. She took it for the royal family. Because thanks to Harry and Meghan and their horrible racist allegations that they made during the Oprah Winfrey interview last year, the royal family is now under constant attack and accusations of racism. So they cannot afford to have these events happen with absolutely no action. That would literally be detrimental to the British monarchy. So they acted swiftly, some say too swiftly. So Lady Susan Hussey had stepped down from her post that she held for over 60 years as a lady-in-waiting to Her Majesty the Queen. Now, the palace released a statement after the meeting. They said, quote, "At this meeting filled with warmth and understanding, Lady Susan offered her sincere apologies for the comments that were made and the distress they caused to Miss Fulani. Lady Susan has pledged to deepen her awareness of the sensitivities involved and is grateful for the opportunity to learn more about the issues in this area. Miss Fulani, who has unfairly received the most appalling torrent of abuse on social media and elsewhere, has accepted this apology and appreciates that no malice was intended." Both Miss Fulani and Lady Susan ask now that they be left in peace to rebuild their lives in the wake of an immensely distressing period for both of them. Now, we do know that Miss Fulani has opened up a little can of worms, and she's in a little bit of trouble with her charities being investigated. She did receive a lot of hate and backlash, but so did Lady Susan Hussey. So this issue has now been put to rest. Although I do believe there was some shadiness going on, some collusion, a possible setup, because as we mentioned in a previous video, this woman has connections to Meghan Markle associates, and with her racial hatred toward the royal family and her past tweets, her showing up decked out in African attire and then getting offended when you ask a question about her heritage, again, the whole thing seems shady. Now, a lot of people were very upset with Buckingham Palace for the way they handled the situation. Many people thought they were too hard on Lady Susan. Lady Susan immediately apologized and she stepped down. Again, she fell on the sword like a true lady. She wanted to nip it in the bud. She was embarrassed, and she most certainly did not want to be involved in a royal scandal. And I applaud her for doing so because she acted appropriately. And Buckingham Palace, they did not back her. But I also feel like Buckingham Palace is between a rock and a hard place. They're backed in a corner because everyone is now watching them. How are they acting? Are they acting to the racist allegations? Are they taking the appropriate actions? We're living in a different time. Corporations, everyone is making you take certain kind of training. So Buckingham Palace, they are a business, they are a firm. They represent the royal family, but as a whole, it's not a good look if somebody goes to an event and they claim racism and then the palace says, whatever, we're not going to do anything. Then that looks bad on them, especially after Harry and Meghan, their own family members, accused them of racism. So the royal family had to have an act. They had to do something quickly, something in the public, and by making these two ladies come together, saying we're going to deepen our education, we apologize, that was literally the only way they could solve that situation, whether you agree or don't agree. The palace is put in a very sensitive situation. So I think they handled it appropriately, so that way people cannot accuse the firm or the royal family of being racist or not listening to complaints from people because they handled it swiftly, much like a corporation would handle the situation. So now a lot of people are wondering, will King Charles invite Harry and Meghan to the coronation after the release of the Netflix docuseries? Now, I've heard some conflicting reports, but in my personal opinion, I think Charles is going to invite Harry and Meghan to the coronation, but will they attend the coronation is the question. Because again, Harry and Meghan have put the royal family between a rock and a hard place where they're damned if they do and they're damned if they don't. They're going to look petty and they're going to look like they're retaliating against Harry and Meghan if they don't invite them to the coronation. right? They're going to be like, oh, see, Harry and Meghan were right. They're not being invited. They're being excommunicated. They're being kicked out because they spoke the truth. So if Charles comes out and says, hey, you are welcome to come, son. Here you go. We'll save a seat for you up in the nosebleeds with the tier 2 royals behind a candlestick. We got a seat for you and your wife. So now you can't say it's the royal family who's acting inappropriately. Now, there's another story that has come out that supposedly Harry and Meghan are pissed. They're really mad that the royal family, Buckingham Palace, sat down with Ngozi Fulani and Lady Susan Hussey and apologized to her for what happened to her, with the racist allegations, the interrogation of, her asking her where she was from. They're mad because they felt like they weren't given the same treatment. Right? They're like, wait a minute, you owe us an apology for the mistreatment that we suffered throughout the royal family. Nobody helped us. We were treated poorly. You need to bow down and apologize to us, and then maybe we'll attend your coronation. Woo! Yeah, so now Harry and Meghan are feeling a little jealous, in their feelings. And it's going to be interesting to see. Will Prince Charles extend the olive branch? Will he bow down and try to squash the problems with his rogue son and his wife? So the problem is, which way is the wind going to blow? They really only have two choices at this point. A, do the never complain, never explain, business as usual, no comment. Or B, extend the olive branch, grovel and apologize and try to work it out and shut it down. Because they had a problem when they made the first accusation during the Oprah Winfrey interview and they ignored it. Recollections may vary. We'll look into it. And then they never did anything. Because one, they were attacking the family, so it was a private matter. They weren't really attacking the institution at that point. It was a family member who made the comment about Archie. So the Queen was very smart. She was very wise and said, we will handle this privately. But our recollections vary on what happened, meaning context is everything. But now Harry and Meghan have made public accusations against the British institution, even the press, the UK people, and Brexit for being racist. They've accused everyone but the kitchen sink, including the royal family, of selling them out, handing Meghan to the wolves, that type of thing. So now they kind of do need to address it because it's not just a private little family squabble. They're kind of including a lot of people and the British monarchy as a whole and the UK as a whole as a racist organization. Is Charles going to give them the olive branch? I don't know. Because if he ignores them and they don't have an apology or they don't have a meeting, they don't have a royal summit, what's going to happen? Maybe they can just run amok by themselves and they'll run out of steam. But again, the Oprah Winfrey interview was so damaging. The Oprah Winfrey interview is still more damaging than that dumb docuseries that they just did. So all the docuseries did was kind of double down, but they now included a lot more people in their accusations of racism. Again, everyone but the kitchen sink. There's a lot of rumors going on that Harry and Meghan expect an apology. They expect the royal summit. I guess we'll have to wait and see if that's actually going to materialize. But they definitely feel like there's a double standard and that the palace is willing to meet with other people, but yet they didn't give Harry and Meghan the same courtesy. Well, hold on to your britches, y'all. That's right, more bombshells are going to be coming out as Prince Harry is going to be on a brand new media blitz starting in January for his book Spare, which is coming out on January 10th. Now, rumor is he's going to meet with a really big broadcaster, Anderson Cooper, on Sunday, January 8th. So I don't know what's going to happen, guys. It's like, it's the story that's just never going to end. But we know he's got to promote that book, y'all. So it could have more bombshells than the Oprah Winfrey interview. Now, his publishers claim, quote, this will be a landmark publication telling his story with raw and unflinching honesty. Well, apparently he didn't use that for the docu-series, so let's hope this version of the truth is actually the truth. Huh, Harry? So it's going to be interesting to see what happens, guys. It doesn't look like we're going to be at a loss for any stories coming up anytime soon. So what do you guys think of Buckingham Palace having a formal meeting and an apology from Lady Susan Hussey to Ngozi Fulani? Do you think that was a good choice? What do you think of King Charles' upcoming coronation? Do you think he's going to invite Harry and Meghan to the coronation? And do you think there's going to be a royal summit and apology? And what do you think about the new media blitz that's going to start in January to help promote Prince Harry's upcoming autobiography, Spare, and his interview on January 8th with Anderson Cooper? Leave me your comments, guys, down below. As always, I appreciate each and every one of you. Thank you so much for stopping by the channel, and I hope to see you in another video. Bye, guys.